This was the first time that all the devotees from all over India came together. Prabhupada had arrived in Calcutta and other devotees had arrived in Bombay. And for a whole year, people were doing preaching at different places. Some devotees were preaching in Delhi, some devotees had gone down south. But at this time, Prabhupada was going to reorganize all the preaching in India. So devotees came from all over different parts of India to be with Prabhupada at this specific time. So in the morning, Srila Prabhupada would go out and take his walk. And he wanted to have the kirtan party, going on with him when he took his morning walk. And as we walked through the different camps, sadhus would come out and pay their respects to Srila Prabhupada.
As Srila Prabhupada described this Magh Mela at the time, there were reported 7 million saintly souls that went to take part in the festivities throughout the month. Never had we been in such crowds of people or lived amidst so many people. Srila Prabhupada determined what our activities would be from morning till night at this pandal. So it was both for purification and for example of what Vaishnavas do. And while a program of deity worship went on with artis and offerings throughout the day, one of the main engagements of the day was prasad distribution. So virtually people were cooking and distributing prasadam throughout the whole day. And different devotees volunteered for that cooking service. Sagar Maharaj was instrumental in showing us how to shop in this environment. And Rabadi Nandan Maharaj was quite instrumental in the making and distribution of both halawa and khichdi.
I didn't get to go on a single one of those morning kirtans. I had to cook for 45 people breakfast on the fires. Then I had to cook lunch on those fires. Then one day Prabhupada said, after lunch was over, he said, I want you to prepare rice, puris, and chutney for 700 people. And that was to be passed out in the pandal in the afternoon. And then after that, I had to get dinner ready for 45 people. I had 2 little wood fire pits. And all we had was sticks. I mean, just sticks. Not even chunks of wood that you could make a bed of coals out of, just sticks. So all you had was flame and soot, The pots were covered with soot. I was covered with soot. Now, somehow, I was putting out every bit I had to do that service at that time. It was the hardest thing I ever did materially.
I mean, I was just following the crowd, most of us were, and then we arrive in this place by foot, and it's just, like all the bizarre things you'd ever thought about or heard about India were right there in front of your face and going on. The naked Nagar Babas, men riding on elephants, the snake charming Babas, it's just all happening there. And every day, Prabhupada would, as you can see, would take us out on Nagar Sankirtan. There's my daughter, Haribol.
This is a very ancient festival. Prabhupada told us it goes back many, many thousands of years. At this time, that all the holy men, they come and they gather because there's a very auspicious constellation. And if you take bath at that time, you're guaranteed liberation. And I remember asking Prabhupada whether that was really true. Prabhupada said, yes, it's true. He said, but we didn't come here to be for that, because we're already liberated. We came here to preach Krishna consciousness. But I did go for, because I wanted the guarantee. I went, and you have to go early in the morning, about 4 o'clock. And there are no lights. It's very cold. The wind is blowing because it's winter time. And just hundreds of people are wandering towards the river. And it was a really sensational experience. Here you can see Srila Prabhupada is shaving. There was no hot water available. Of course, perhaps someone heated a little water up for Prabhupada. But the amazing thing was that Prabhupada, at such an advanced age, came to this place with so many devotees to live in a tent. Everyone was living in a tent, and it was wintertime, it's cold. Of course, during the day it warmed up a bit because of the sun. But it's also said that at a certain day in the course of this festival it rains. And sure enough, when that day came, it rained. And so it was really miserable after that because everything was damp and very difficult to keep warm. So here we see Srila Prabhupada and the devotees getting ready to make a visit to the local Gaudiya Math. And of course Prabhupada lived in Allahabad for a number of years and he had a business there. And he told us also later that he donated the deities there. I remember what struck me when we went there that day was there was Prabhupada in the lead, and then there was 8 or 9 rickshaws following behind, again like little ducklings. Wherever he went, we followed behind. That was our relationship. Never knowing exactly the full significance of what Prabhupada was doing, but as I said before, looking back now, it's clear to me that Prabhupada knew exactly. It was like a great campaign that he had planned and been carrying out.
The Rupa Gaudiya Math in Allahabad. This was a most exciting event for all of Srila Prabhupada's Western disciples. Not only were we attending a program with Srila Prabhupada, but we were attending a program at a temple that he was very instrumental in serving in the years before he left India, when he lived in Allahabad. Oh, here's the deities. We were all aware of the fact that Srila Prabhupada had, in his business years, arranged for the Archa Vigraha at this mandir, the Radha and Krishna deities. It was his service. This is in fact one of the first Archa Vigraha that I ever saw a photo of in my entire life when we were in San Francisco in 1967. And some very early photos were sent from Calcutta, taken by Achyutananda and Ramanuja Brahmachari. We had a photograph of these deities that were sent to us in San Francisco. And so it was one of the first Radha and Krishna deities that I ever saw from India. So they always remain very dear to me. Srila Prabhupada was very proud of the fact that of all these pandals at the Magh Mela that year, none attempted a deity worship program of Radha Krishna Archa Vigrahas but ours. So we became very famous for even that aspect of our presence. The Archa Vigraha was Sri Sri Radha Madhava.
Prabhupada, on another day, he took us all through, not all of us, but I know I was with him, and we drove through the city, and he pointed out different places where he lived and where his business was, and things like that. I remember one day Prabhupada told us that many yogis come here, and some of them are very old, up to 300 years, and he said that they appear just like young boys, so you wouldn't recognize them. He said 2 came to see him, and they told him that they lived in the jungle with some tigers.
I remember being amazed because it was the first time Prabhupada spoke about some of the siddhis that the yogis there had. He told us, you must be very careful because these are very powerful yogis here, and that many of them have very powerful siddhis, and they can go down in the Ganga at the Himalaya and come up here at Triveni. They have the siddhi to be able to move between places. He said, so you must be very respectful, very careful.
During this time at the Kumbh Mela, we were taken across the Ganga in boats, and we went to the ashram of Prabhupada Brahmachari. He was an old man, and he was famous because he had done the translation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was originally written in Bengali, and Prabhupada had translated into English, but Prabhupada had translated into Hindi. So most people in northern India speak Hindi, so they were able to appreciate the translation of Prabhupada. Allahabad figures as a very prominent place in the Gaudiya Vaishnava's history, because Rupa Goswami was instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Allahabad, in Prayag, for so many days, I think 10 days, when Rupa Goswami was on his way to Vrindavan to carry out his mission. And at this specific spot, Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami later on wrote down all the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, which governs all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas to this very day. All his writings, he was considered the most prominent of the Goswamis, Rupa Goswami.
But I was so sick that when I got up in the morning about 4 o'clock and had to run for the outhouse, there was somebody in the outhouse. And then I went back in and I climbed between the quilts again to get warm. And I just laid there and I couldn't move. And then I heard the Mangala Arati start. And I got up and I got dressed and I came into Artik, and I must have been 10 minutes late. And Prabhupada watched me walk in from the back. And he was talking about the Bhagavatam story of Ajamil, about the subject of atonement. The Sanskrit word is prayaschita, and it means atonement. And he was talking about how atoning for sins doesn't solve the problem because it doesn't cleanse the seed of sinful desire from the heart. And so even though you can get free from the reaction by atonement, by some kind of prayaschita, you can't stop the tendency to commit the sin again that way. And then he started talking about Ajamil, and how Ajamil as a youth, and he said he did some very pure service. And Prabhupada was looking at me as he said it. And then he said, very pure. But then later in his life, because of circumstance, he fell down. And he went to his death as a fallen worldly man. But it was right as I walked in and as he was looking at me that he talked about Ajamil doing some pure service in his youth. And then as he was looking at me, he said, very pure. Even now, thinking back on it, and what happened, and then how my life has gone since, it almost seemed like he saw my future.
Here we see Vairagi Baba meeting Srila Prabhupada on the Harinam procession at Kumbh Mela. And he was a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He had huge kartals that we call wampers. And he would chant Hari Bol, and clash the wampers together. Srila Prabhupada had met Vairagi Baba earlier in Bombay at Prem Kutir. And then again, Srila Prabhupada met him at the Gita Jayanti Sammelan in Indore. And one evening, Vairagi Baba joined Srila Prabhupada and the devotees on the stage. And Srila Prabhupada got up off the Vyasasan and came right in front of Vairagi Baba and began to jump up and down and dance in an effort to encourage him also to jump up and down and dance. And there were the two of them jumping up and down and dancing before thousands of people. Then at the Kumbh Mela, Srila Prabhupada encouraged Vairagi Baba to join us, and some of the evenings at the Pandal program, Vairagi Baba would also come on stage and he would chant and dance with the devotees. And we could see that Srila Prabhupada really wanted to engage him. And he was very enthusiastic about Sankirtan and Mahaprabhu. And he was also enlivened to be part of Srila Prabhupada's work.
And there was a big hundi, and we'd empty the coins every day, and the next day we'd go on a walk. Prabhupada would have us give the coins to the lepers and other afflicted people. There was a whole colony of these people as part of the Mela. They'd come to the Mela to get the blessings and of the sadhus and, to get some basis they have to live. So one devotee said, one morning, stopped and said, well, wouldn't it be better if we gave them prasadam? Because we saw prasadam as a big plate of halam and khichdi. Prabhupada stopped and turned. He said, for them, this is prasad.
I was in Banaras at that time when Srila Prabhupada was touring, traveling India with his 40 disciples. I read in a newspaper, in America, Krishna Bhakti is preached. Naturally, I was devotee of Krishna, so I liked this topic. So I went there. Then there was a procession from the Sasmed Ghat to Tapan Mishra's house that is now in Banaras. When procession finished, I approached Srila Prabhupada and I spoke in Hindi. Bhagavan, आप कब अमेरिका गए थे? When you went to America? And how you preach? The Prabhupada said, you see, I just chant Hare Krishna and give some lecture. He said, they need this Vedic knowledge. So just see how they are happy and they are chanting. Then I asked, where is your program after Banaras? The Prabhupada said, I will go to Gorakhpur. So I wrote down the date. Then I went to Gorakhpur and Prabhupada was there. He was staying in Krishna Niketan. I went there. I was waiting. And Prabhupada was at that time alone. So I did not recognize that he is Prabhupada. Where is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami? I asked Prabhupada. So Prabhupada asked me, why you want to meet with him? So I replied, because he is my guru. I like him very much. So Prabhupada asked me, why you accept him as your guru? I said, because he is the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Prabhupada asked me, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So I said, he is Krishna himself. So I was talking and Prabhupada asked, why you accept Lord Chaitanya as Krishna? So because I read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna himself came as a devotee to preach. Then Prabhupada said, no, he is not Krishna. He is devotee of Krishna. I said, no, he is Krishna himself. The Prabhupada insisted, no, he is devotee of Krishna. He is not Krishna. Then I spoke very hard words to Srila Prabhupada. I said, bas chup rahiye, just keep quiet, don't speak anymore. Then Prabhupada laughed very loudly. Very loudly he was laughing. Then some bhaktas came and they were offering obeisances. So I realized that he is Guru Maharaj, he is Srila Prabhupada. So when they offered obeisances, I also offered obeisances. And so I said, please forgive me. I offended at your lotus feet. I did not recognize you. Please forgive me. Then Prabhupada caught my hand like this and come to my room. Then 3 disciples were sitting there. Prabhupada was laughing. His smile was not stopped. And then he told that he knows that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. He said, you chastised me, I like that. I am very happy with your words.
The biggest splash we made, of course, was the Cross Maidan Festival in March of '71. We brought Western-style advertising techniques to India for the first time and made huge advertising efforts with balloons. And I remember we had one skyscraper, 7-story building with Hare Krishna written down the side in giant letters. And we selected the park, or the grounds, right in the center of Bombay called Cross Maidan, where daily tens of thousands of people walked. And the whole idea was to introduce Hare Krishna movement to India. And daily 50 to 100,000 people would attend, morning and evening lectures, but all day long the pandal was kept open for people to walk around and ask devotees questions. There was a question and answer booth, the different displays of Krishna consciousness around the world. People began to get the idea that this was a global movement started by one of their own.
I was especially attracted by their appeal that said, American sadhus are in town, European sadhus. I had only heard of Haridwar sadhus or Vrindavan Mathura sadhus or Pandharpur sadhus. So I was curious. That time I didn't get to see Prabhupada, or I was mostly in meeting devotees. But I was very much impressed with Prabhupada's devotees, Prabhupada's followers. They were pretty dead serious, grave, convinced, knowledgeable, and I had these impressions. And if this was his followers and disciples, then I could only imagine their guru, their spiritual master must be far, far superior.
I had just come down from Himalayas and Varanasi and Bodh Gaya, and I was in Bombay. I was walking down the road. I saw a big sign saying Hare Krishna Festival at Cross Maidan. It was on that first day of the Pandal program. Tens and thousands of people attended. And I was way, way back in the crowds, just watching. And Prabhupada came on stage. Madhur Bisla Prabhu was leading kirtan. Devotees were dancing. And Guru Das Prabhu was taking photos. And I saw Guru Das called over by Prabhupada, and they were talking for some time. And then Guru Das was looking through the crowds for quite a while. And he came all the way to the back of the crowds and took me by the hand and said, Prabhupada wants you to sit with him on stage. And I asked, how does Prabhupada know who I am? And he didn't say anything. He just pulled me up. And when we came to the stage, Prabhupada smiled at me. And with his hand, he gestured that I should sit not far from his Vyasasan. And I sat. And I saw Srila Prabhupada when he was speaking. He just had such a sincere longing to reach people's hearts. Such deep compassion, such deep concern.
When he sat down to speak, I could barely understand. His accent was so strong, but the purport was surrender. And that came through. The idea of surrendering was a little overwhelming, but the thought was certainly there. I knew this was a pivotal moment, meeting His Divine Grace.
This marriage ceremony seemed to be a very, very proud event for Srila Prabhupada, because it was really displaying the international influence of Krishna consciousness on a very solid basis of lifelong vows of dedication. While the marriage was taking place, suddenly I felt somebody holding onto my hand. I turned down and it was little Saraswati. Looked at me right in the face and said, "Guess what?" I replied, "What?" And with a big smile on her face, she said, "Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead." And then she ran away. And later on, during one of the lectures, Srila Prabhupada noted how this little Saraswati was a perfect preacher, because whatever she knew about Krishna, she was eager to share that with others.